Online shoppers in China looked set on Sunday to break last year's record for money spent during the country's Singles' Day, an annual consumption binge now entering its 10th year. Consumers seemed undeterred by the challenges besetting the world's second-largest economy, buying more than $14 billion of goods overall in the first 2 hours, and more than $19 billion from the e-commerce giant Alibaba in the first 9 hours. The latter figure is $3 billion higher than at the same time last year, according to the South China Morning Post, and has put Alibaba on track to pass its sales record of $25.4 billion last year, the paper said. The figures indicate that a tariff war with the U.S., a stock market slump and a growth slowdown across the economy have done little to blunt consumer appetite in the country. Read more. Who is Alibaba's next chairman? Daniel Zhang. Environmental concerns. Singles' Day, which began in the 1990s as a spoof event celebrated by Chinese university students without romantic partners, has been co-opted by e-retailers who offer large discounts on products to bring about an annual profit windfall. The event is also known in Chinese as Double 11 because of the November 11th date. In 2015, Singles' Day beat the sales made on Black Friday and Cyber Monday combined, two of the largest shopping days in the U.S. The event is of great concern to environmental activists, who criticize the huge amounts of waste produced by the packaging of the products bought. Pledges by Alibaba and its rival JD.com to use biodegradable packaging to reduce waste are seen with skepticism by environmental organization Greenpeace, which says many plastics described in this way will break down only under high temperatures provided at a limited number of special facilities in the country. Read more. Ending plastic waste with big promises. Since 2008, the world's aggregate debt has increased by 60%. There's a hole of $182 trillion, 158 trillion euros, in public and private coffers to be plugged. People are wondering whether there are any funds left to soften the impact of a potential economic downslide. Emerging markets account for about 40% of global economic output, but they are highly vulnerable. Many of these nations crank up their economies with the help of foreign, mostly dollar-denominated funds. But when U.S. interest rates go up, that system is on shaky ground amid capital outflows. Argentina knows what we're talking about, so does Turkey. U.S. President Donald Trump is still able to make the American economy boom with tax breaks and trade barriers. But many companies are increasingly reluctant to make big investments with all the uncertainty around. The IMF believes that from next year on, economic expansion will slow after reaching a peak in 2018. Meat and vegetables from the U.S., steel, textiles and technology from China. Washington and Beijing have slapped tariffs on each other's products worth $360 billion. According to the IMF, that's already shaving 0.9% of GDP off the United States output and 0.6% off China's GDP. Should the bilateral trade conflict escalate, global trade volumes would decrease by 17.5%. Shadow banks engage in financial dealings outside the regular banking sector. ECB President Mario Draghi says such shadow banks account for 40% of the financial system in the EU. Even many regular lenders sit on buffers too small to weather a financial crisis. Some tend to ignore the lessons from the collapse of Lehman Brothers some 10 years ago. Time's running out, but there is still no agreed plan as to the modalities of Britain's exit from the EU in March 2019. Without a free trade agreement, German firms alone would have to pay over €3 billion in tariffs annually. Border checks would jeopardize just-in-time production. Carmakers such as Nissan, Toyota and BMW would likely need to close down factories in the UK. We see a Eurozone crisis reloaded. Populist parties in Rome are pushing for a universal income and a lower retirement age, despite the country logging the EU's biggest debt at around €2.4 trillion. Italy's government debt to GDP ratio stands at a troubling 130%. Former problem child Greece has only just returned to capital markets and is aiming to rid itself of toxic credits. Author, Paul Christian Brits, H.G. T.J. R.C. D.P.A. A.P. Each evening at 18:30 UTC, DW's editors send out a selection of the day's hard news and quality feature journalism. You can sign up to receive it directly here.